Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Now, for a short period yesterday, there were rumours that Kate Forbes could come back into the cabinet as Health Secretary, probably, unless there was a bit of a switch up and he'd have put Shona Robinson in Health, maybe. But that's the last thing you want. In fact, you don't want Shona Robinson anywhere near it, do you? But Kate was not invited in. And I suspect that even if she was invited, she may well have said no. Because, of course, once she's on the inside of the tent pissing out, it's very hard for her to rebel or to go against what is said in cabinet. And there's also the fact that she wouldn't share a cabinet with the Greens anyway. Her price for coming back in would be the end of the Butte House agreement. Something Humza won't do because obviously he's tied himself to their mast, as it were. He's nailed his colours. He won't give up the Greens. He's too scared. And so he wouldn't invite Kate back. Also the fact, of course, he's scared of Kate. He's absolutely frit. He knows that she is coming for him and that when it comes to it, she will win this time. After all, the mess he's made. So that is why she wasn't invited. And it's there to show. But we are going to take a look at this story because this snub does have bigger, wider repercussions. Here goes. So, why Kate Forbes was snubbed by Humza Yousaf in the reshuffle as the leadership rival remains on the back benches, where she, I think, knows she's strong. If she goes in, throws her lot in with Humza Yousaf, she'll be endorsing him, agreeing with what he is and what he's doing. And I don't think that she wants that look going forward. She knows she's her own person. She wants to make her own mind up. She wants to be the leader who, in her mind, will save the SNP. And she knows full well that that means distancing themselves, definitely from the Greens, but also from a lot of the failing politics that they've got. And I think also that she's aware that a lot of the current cabinet, which are basically his lickspittles and obsequious little crawlers, won't want her in the cabinet. Also, it would prove very difficult. She wants to go in, she'll have a clean sweep. There may be one or two that remain just simply for a little bit of continuity, but generally there'll be a clean sweep and a whole new set of faces will be there. Definitely, of course, Fergus Ewing. But anyway, the former Finance Secretary has been tipped as a possible replacement for Michael Matheson in the health brief, but Mr Yousaf has opted to keep her on the sidelines. Not entirely sure how accurate that is. Maybe he did ask her, maybe she said no. Humza Yousaf delivered a snub to his SNP leadership rival Kate Forbes on Thursday as he ignored calls to bring her back into his cabinet because he doesn't have political nous. If he'd have offered and she say no, that's a different thing. If she'd have said yes, he'd have won. If she said no, she'd have won. But he didn't ask her because of any kind of political nous like that. He wouldn't ask her because it's Kate Forbes, don't like her, because he's a child. Anyway, the pair have a strained relationship and neither held back in the brutal battle for Butte House. They both wanted to replace Nicola Sturgeon as SNP and by default be First Minister. And of course, Humza Yousaf has the whole backing of all the hierarchy of the party. And even then, only managed just to scrape over the line. And I think if it was rerun today, Kate Forbes would have it, and I think have it comfortably. I think all those who backed Humza Yousaf now regret that decision. We call it buyer's remorse. And I think there's most definitely a case of buyer's remorse. Anyway, Miss Forbes, who was praised for her performance as Finance Secretary, had headed to the back benches, but she's certainly not been avoiding the limelight. She's widely seen to be positioning herself for another tilt at the top job. If Mr Yousaf suffers big losses at this year's general election, something predicted by most pollsters, I would also suggest that it may even be the case that he's not there by Easter. The murmurings are there. They know how bad it's going to get, and they know that they have to replace him sooner or later. And some are saying sooner is better so that Kate can get bedded and, lead into a general election rather than being replaced after one, by which time it's probably too late and everything will have gone and most of their MPs will be wiped out. So there are that little rumour and murmur that's going on. The whispers hushed in the corridors, as it were. So it's possible that he may be ousted before the election. Anyway, she had been tipped with a return to government after Matheson quit as Health Secretary on Thursday, but Yousaf instead picked his close friend Neil Gray, a man with no experience whatsoever in a senior role. This is as he reshuffled his cabinet. Miss Forbes herself did not rule out accepting a role if it was offered, but then neither did she say she would take it. She was very quiet. But it's understood she's happy on the backbenches, aware that a ministerial role would limit her freedom to speak her mind in crucial areas, as I've said, and one of those, of course, would be with disagreement with the Greens. Becoming a minister would have meant Miss Forbes signing up to collective responsibility and publicly backing government policy, even if she fiercely disagreed with it. And she's already criticised the Butte House agreement between the SNP and the Scottish Greens, which has allowed Lorna Slater and Patrick Harvey into government as junior ministers. And boy, look at the damage they're doing there. Speaking in December, she blamed the Scottish Greens for losing SNP support in the polls, saying we were elected on an SNP manifesto, not a Green Party manifesto or the Butte House agreement. Nearly all the issues that have lost our support in the past year are found in the Butte House agreement and not in the SNP manifesto. There's a picture here. I'm going to show you this. Mr Yousaf has been unstinting in his support for the Greens in government. He has entirely. He may as well just leave the SNP and join the Greens. He praises them so very much. The Butte House agreement has seen the Natch push for higher taxes on Scots, with new bans being implemented, hammering middle-class households. And that's not the end of it. I've got a story coming up involving Ross Greer. Keep an eye out for that one. You really don't want to miss this one that's coming. Anyway, here's a picture, right, of the cabinet. Aren't they a bunch of weirdos? Honestly, it's like the short bus, isn't it? It's like the school for retards. It really is. I mean, I'm not kidding. Look at them. We're talking toys in the attic here. You know, not much. Weird bunch. Absolute weird. Anyway. Another area where Miss Forbes diverges from the cabinet is, of course, this tax ban. She wants to simplify everything. She called the higher taxes counterproductive, and writing in a Highland newsletter, she added the forecasts for what the Scottish Government will raise through the latest changes to the top bands is just over 80 million. That isn't to be sniffed at, but the forecast also suggests they'll lose 180 million they could have raised because of behavioural change. So a net loss. Perhaps people leaving or reducing hours or treating their income differently. That illustrates that we need to invest in people, in job creation, in better wages. That way, the tax take will increase. A woman who has heard, I think, of the Laffer curve. It's also understood that Miss Forbes could find herself on a collision course with the government on the issue of conversion therapy. She's already confirmed she will not have backed the proposal of gender recognition reforms due to her religious beliefs. And of course, it is that very thing. She is not one to back down, I think. She is the only person that the Greens have got that may offer in any way, shape or form any kind of comeback, of saving grace. There is no one else. He's finished. She's the future. The SNP know this. The membership know this. And so they're looking at ways already to bring her in. And the moment she becomes leader, Butte House is dead in the water. But it's just great, isn't it? I love the infighting and the intrigue in the SNP, and it's only going to intensify over time. But she's without doubt the next leader. Anyway, coming up. Now, I must say, I mean, you know, she is still SNP. We don't really want the SNP in charge. But since they're going to be likely there for another 2.5 years or so, at least have someone sane and someone sensible and someone who doesn't want to overtax people the way that this lot seem to be going about it. It's just weird, their views on tax. And at least she's got some kind of sanity on the subject. But that's it. But the sooner we can get them out, the better. Scotland will be a lot better for it. We'll all think it's better. I have family members who are absolutely, definitely thinking of leaving. I've got people who live in, people I know that live in Inverness. I think now Inverness town is a long way, but they're looking. They want to move perhaps a lot, you know, hundreds of miles south to England, simply because they're being taxed out of existence. And also everything else going on around them is just so worse. No hospitals, no services, crime, no police, you see. All sorts of things. And it's not just them. I'm sure there's many, many others. And they've lived there generations, and they just say it's just no good anymore. The SNP, eh? Damaging Scotland. One day at a time. Anyway, finished there. Thank you very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment. Please share the video. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and I will speak to you later.